Welcome to Review Set Scare with Jess and Blair. I'm Jess.
I'm Blair.
Blair, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. It is good to have you back.
Oh, happy to be back. Happy to be back.
I missed you.
Anytime we have some kind of a lull where we don't record or we don't see each other, something is definitely missing in my life. So happy to be back. Happy to see your smiling face.
You were having a blast, though. How was the trip?
The trip was fantastic. For those of you who don't know, I was recently wed, and then ventured off on my honeymoon. I went to Disneyland.
Yes, sir.
Which was a lot of fun and also incredibly busy. And then we did Universal Studios, but more importantly, we did Universal Studios Halloween Horror Nights.
I'm so jealous of that.
Do you mind if I got like a whole rundown kind of thing of the night?
Yeah, can you please? Yeah, I want to hear all about it, man.
If you have time, bear with me. So yeah, I went on a bit of a field trip recently, me and my beautiful bride, Halloween Horror Nights, and she humored me. She humored me and went to Halloween Horror Nights, and let me tell you, it was excellent. Now, there were 8 haunted houses in total, but due to long wait times, including a 3-hour wait time for the Stranger Things haunt.
That's insane, man. That's
3
insane.
hours. It was 180 minutes.
That's gonna take up most of the night.
That's the thing. So because of that, we only ended up doing 4 haunts.
Okay.
So we started off strong. We started off with the Exorcist Believer haunt. Lots of really cool light work in this one. Lots of front lit, backlit walls. More than anything else, this haunt made me very excited for the movie.
Right on.
It was very creepy, gave me great vibes from the original. This movie, or if this movie is anything like The Haunt, it's going to be excellent.
It's good to hear.
From there, we went back upstairs. So Universal Studios is built. They have the lower lot and upper lot. From there, we went all the way to the top. And this is the one that I wish you were there for, because our second haunt of the night was Evil Dead Rise.
I wish I was there too, man.
This one was insane, just like the movie. The whole walkthrough took place through the apartment. There was some really cool scenes taking place in the bedrooms and kitchen and parking garage.
That's so cool, man.
My favorite bit of the walkthrough was the bathroom with the bathtub, the steaming bathtub. I loved this haunt. And
did she pop out of the bathtub?
She didn't, but there was so much tension in the room that you thought that she was going to.
Yeah.
This one was great, and there was chainsaws galore. Lots of chainsaws in this one, and they get right in your face. The next one we did also on the upper lot was Monsters of Latin America. It was very cool, but I was a little bit confused, which
was there like La Llorona?
Yeah. And the thing is, it wasn't the haunt's fault that I was confused. I was confused just because I'm not overly familiar with Latin American monsters.
Fair.
But it was still very, very cool. One of the things about all of these haunts is like the prosthetics was so good. The atmosphere was so good. Right after that, right outside of the Monsters of Latin America, I just want to talk about the roaming, the streets. So incredibly fantastic. There were lots of people working the haunt. There must have been over 100 people just working in costume or whatever.
Man. Yeah.
And then they were getting right in your face. They were popping up out of nowhere. It was so good. You'd be trying to take a picture and they would just jump into the picture, or they'd be right behind you, or it was great.
That's awesome, man.
And then we finished the night with the Terror Tram, which took place on the Universal backlot, which is one of my favorite things to do at Universal Studios. Now, this one was really cool because we actually got to get off of the tram on the backlot, and we got to get off at a very, very cool place. They let us off at the Bates Motel.
Right on. I was going to guess if it was either the hotel or the house.
So we got off at the motel. We got to walk around the motel, which was very cool.
Yeah.
But then we walked up to the house.
Oh, awesome, man.
And at the house, Norman Bates was standing outside doing photo ops with those people who spent more money.
Oh, okay.
So that is, I'll talk briefly about the downsides, but that is one of the downsides about theme parks in general. There's different packages, different tickets that you can buy that get you more inclusive, I guess, items.
Yeah. Like fast passes or
exactly. So we bought the basic one, which was still $100 and some American, but for an extra $100, you could get photo ops with. It was great. Now, one of my downsides, and it's the same downsides that we talk about Deadmonton House.
Yeah.
The same downsides we talk about Dark, but multiplied by about 1,000 was the amount of people there.
Oh, I could only imagine.
And it was great because everyone who was there was like, we had the same vibe. Everyone was really excited. But it also meant not only long wait times, but you were also going through the haunts. They were trying their best to kind of stagger entry, but you were going through the house with 40 other people.
A lot of people. So I found Deadmonton has gotten a lot better at that through the years.
Agreed.
Dark, unfortunately, has kind of gotten worse. But hopefully they can turn it around. It's a hard thing to tackle when you're running a haunt.
Well, and that's the thing. You obviously want the most amount of people to see it. It's a lot of work to put these things on.
Yeah.
And you want a whole bunch of people to experience it. But it's trying to handle that issue of we want as many people to see it, but we don't want them to experience it through a secondhand scare.
Yeah.
Which is like one of our
seeing it up ahead. Yeah.
Exactly. Seeing it 10 people ahead, and then you get an empty room. So, but that was the trip. That was Halloween and Horror Nights. The rest of the trip was great. Disneyland was great. We got to do the Nightmare Before Christmas Haunted Mansion.
Right on.
Which is not as great as the original. That is my hot take. But it was still fun. And that one was only like an 80-minute wait time. Just crazy.
80 minutes, an hour and a half for a ride. It's nuts, exactly. Man. Worth it.
But happy to be back. Happy to be back. And very excited to chat about this week's episode. The third episode in the month of September, aka Stephen King month. Of course, the month where we celebrate his birthday, which just happened 3 days ago.
Yesterday, I believe.
Yesterday?
Yeah.
Excellent. But before we dive into this week's movie, what do you say we chat a little bit about some horror news? Blairski, want to kick this one off?
The first official trailer for Hell House LLC Origins, the Carmichael Manor, is now out. And have you seen it?
I haven't watched it yet.
Okay. It looks just like... you've seen the original Hell House?
I have.
Have you seen any of the other ones?
I saw the second one.
Okay.
And I believe I saw the third one as well.
I've only seen the original one. I've seen the first one probably like 2 or 3 times, though. I really like it.
Yeah.
Really enjoy it. It reminded me a lot of that.
Yeah.
Same director, same writer, and everything. So it looks good. I'm excited for that.
It's been a while since we've gotten a Hell House LLC movie.
Well, as I said, I haven't seen number 2 and 3, so I don't even know when they came out.
Yeah. This one will be good. This is another one that it was like, all of a sudden it's like, oh, we got news that there's going to be a new movie. And then within a week, it's like, yep. And here's your first trailer.
Yeah. Right.
I love it.
I love when that happens.
Yeah.
I got a little bit of news about Evil Dead, the game.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard about this already?
I have heard about this. Yes.
So this is a great game. Me and Jesse dabbled in it a little bit together. It's very hard and we were not good at it. So
at all.
We didn't dabble in it too much, but it hasn't been out that long.
No.
It's only been out maybe a year, 2 max.
Yeah.
And they have announced they will no longer be making any new content or any future DLCs, which marks the end for Evil Dead, the game.
I was going to say that was kind of similar to Friday the 13th, the game, where it was kind of an announcement of no further development of this game will come out. And then eventually we got the notification that it was not only are we not expanding on this game, but it won't be available
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah. Like, I don't think now that Texas Chainsaw is out, I don't even think you can play Friday the 13th anymore.
I
Like,
don't think you can
I
either.
don't think their servers are up anymore.
I
Evil
don't think they are.
Dead did say they'll keep their servers running for now anyway, so you can still
Yeah.
play the game, but they're not adding any new updates or any new content or anything to it.
Now, as somebody who's played Evil Dead and Texas Chainsaw, now that you've played Texas Chainsaw, I know I've asked you this before,
Yeah.
but now that you've played Texas Chainsaw a lot
It's been
more,
out for a bit now, yeah.
still a little bit better? You're still feeling that that is a superior game to Evil Dead?
Texas Chainsaw is the best out of the three of them.
Okay.
For sure. Killer Clowns from Outer Space is coming soon. We'll see how that is.
The trailer looks good for that game. That trailer looks a lot of fun.
It looks like, I hope that's one that you might pick up and play with me. I think that would be a lot of fun.
I think I mentioned it before, but there's a lot more blood in that video game trailer than I remember being in the movie.
Yeah, you did mention that. It's totally true.
Yeah.
My very last piece of horror news is a place we were just talking about, Deadmonton House. Me and you finally purchased some tickets.
Yes, we did.
We didn't purchase our regular tickets. We still got to do those for
which we will be. Yeah,
we will be doing it as our regular run through of the haunt. But for the first time, we purchased tickets for the Lights Out event.
Yeah.
The very end of the haunt season, it runs for 2 nights where you do the haunt with nothing but one flashlight, I think it is, for your group.
Yeah.
That is it.
And I think when we usually do it, there's about 4 people. We usually go with about 4 people in a group.
Yeah.
So 4 people, 1 flashlight.
It's going to be awesome.
But I mean, man, if it's just you and me, Blairski. Now, this is something that we were approached to do as a study for the local university years ago.
Yeah, for free. We would have had free entry. Yeah.
And we chickened out. But the university was doing a study about, I don't know.
But they didn't want us to go. They didn't want us to go together. They wanted us to each go by ourselves.
Yeah.
Just a solo run with a flashlight.
And I said, if I can't go with my Blairski, I'm not doing it. So now we're finally doing it. But we will be purchasing another ticket where we won't have to use a flashlight.
Yeah, just and that way you can also see kind of, the light effects that they have at the haunts, right? So, which
I'm really excited for, because this year we talked about it this time last year. We had mentioned that it's in a brand new location this year.
I'm excited for that, man. Kind of a fresh take.
Yeah. Again, for those of you who aren't from the Edmonton area, Deadmonton House is a local haunt that happens every Halloween season. And we've gone the last,
5 years.
5 years at least.
Yeah.
And it's always excellent.
Yeah, it's the best haunt I've been to. I've been to a lot of them. So
yeah, absolutely. Anything else for horror news?
That's all I got, my brother.
I've got one here. I'm very excited about this local horror news. Okay. The much anticipated Canadian horror flick, The Last Video Store, is premiering tonight, September 22nd, 2023, at the Fantastic Fest in Austin, Texas. It's described as the last action hero meets Evil Dead and has some major local ties attached, local as in Edmonton. The film stars Kevin Martin, who, if you're into horror like us, you've probably run across Kevin in his video rental store, The Lobby on White Ave.
I was going to ask you, is the movie about The Lobby?
So it is. It's not a documentary.
Okay.
And it's something that he and the other filmmakers have been working on for quite some time. But it's kind of, it brings you back to the days of like B-movie VHS tapes. And they have a VHS tape that's almost like the Necronomicon.
That's pretty cool.
Causes chaos.
Yeah.
But they've been working on this for a long time. Very, very excited to see this and really hoping that it does well at the Fantastic Fest. But also, if you're unfamiliar with The Lobby, it's one of the last video rental stores in the world. And it specializes in rare horror and science fiction movies. You can rent, you can buy there. It is a hidden Edmonton gem that you must check out if you're in the city. That's The Lobby on White Ave.
Yeah. I still haven't been there, man. I have not been in there. I'm very familiar with it, but I've never been inside.
Kevin Martin sold me my first copy of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Hell yeah, he did.
which was very difficult to find at that time.
Yeah.
He also sold me my first copy of Cannibal Holocaust as well.
I remember you lent me that to watch it, and it just sat on my shelf.
Yeah, couldn't be bothered.
I was like, I'm not going to watch that movie.
Yeah. That's all I have for horror news. So what do you say we dive right into this week's episode? This week, we will be discussing 1983's Christine. Runtime on this one, 1 hour, 50 minutes. Blairski, initial thoughts on the runtime?
I was okay with it.
I was okay with it as well.
It is a longer movie, but I like this movie straight up. So
yeah, it was a fun movie, and it didn't seem to lag too much. We'll talk about that in likes and dislikes.
Yeah.
Before we get into likes and dislikes, what do you say we chat a little bit about some fun facts? Blairski, you want to kick this one off?
Well, Christine was released the same year as Cujo.
Crazy.
Both released in 1983. Not only released the same year, but literally only 4 months apart from each other.
How wild is that?
Right? And not only that, Christine, the movie, started filming mere weeks after the book was released.
Yeah, I even have here that they started filming it before it was even published.
It's insane.
Apparently around 83, Stephen King was like top of the charts. Like he was dominating. People had Stephen King fever, and he was killing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that.
Wild. There is actually a remake in production right now from Sony and Blumhouse, I believe.
Yeah. Blumhouse is killing it.
They're doing everything, man. Blumhouse and A24
much.
for sure. Always talking about A24, but
always happy seeing A24 in Blumhouse.
Fun fact here, Kevin Bacon auditioned for the role of Arnie.
Okay.
He opted out when he was offered the lead in Footloose, which is,
everybody cut.
That came out.
Everybody cut. Yeah. We had mentioned, I had mentioned to you yesterday that the character of Dennis reminded me a lot about Kevin Bacon. And I was going to use it as one of my celebrity lookalikes, but I'm pretty sure I've used Kevin Bacon 3 or 4 times for celebrity lookalikes. So I scrapped that one.
Well,
what else you got?
You're not wrong. He does look like Kevin Bacon. 23 cars were used in this movie. And all sold for scrap metal after filming ended. But then only 2 cars were ever recovered and restored from the film. I don't know who owns those cars, but wouldn't that be fucking cool?
To add on to that, one of the Plymouth Furies, one of the 2 used in the movie, was sold in 2004 for $167,000.
Well, then that's clearly one of the 2 that were recovered and restored, right? So that's pretty awesome.
And what a beautiful car.
Oh, man, I have that in my likes and dislikes. I'll get to it, but the cars were sexy in this movie.
Yeah, all of them. Yeah.
Stephen King found the movie adaptation of this book boring. He found
really
boring. He did, yeah.
Okay, it's kind of interesting because coming off of Cujo, I think he really liked Cujo.
He loved Cujo, and I know everyone knows he was not a fan of The Shining. That will be our next episode. But apparently he wasn't a fan of Christine either.
Okay.
Which, I mean, he's very critical of other people giving their takes on his work,
as anyone should be. When somebody's adapting your piece of work. But
my last fun fact here. I just kind of found this interesting. So David Gordon Green, the director of the new Halloween movies and also Exorcist Believer, had stated that his film Halloween Ends, in part, was made as a love letter to 1983's Christine and John Carpenter's body of work in general. Which kind of makes sense because, I mean, John Carpenter is the mind behind the original Halloween movie.
Right.
So I get that with Halloween Ends. I don't really get where he's coming at with Christine. Maybe more, who was that character that was not Michael Myers that was killing everyone?
The faux Michael Myers. I can't remember his name, but I could see that where he
comparing him to Arnie.
Starts off a bit of a nerdy character and then becomes this crazed killer, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly, right? So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Really interesting, yeah. Anything else?
That's it, my brother.
I got a couple here. John Stockwell, who played Dennis, had to take bulldozer driving lessons before filming began.
The thing goes so slow, man.
Yeah. How great is that?
It's awesome.
Nicolas Cage auditioned for the role of Buddy.
Okay.
Buddy was the lead bully.
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah. And then finally, the origin of the car's name apparently came when Stephen King was filming Creepshow with George A. Romero and George A. Romero's then wife, Christine Romero.
Okay, so technically named after his then wife.
Yeah.
Which is pretty wild. That's pretty cool.
How cool is that? Yeah, George A. Romero, we love you. That is all I have, I believe, for fun facts. What do you say we dive right in to the fine folks who made this fine piece of work, starting with, directed by the legend, Mr. John Carpenter. We could go on and on. Directed the 1978 classic Halloween, 1988's They Live, 1980's The Fog, 1969 Gorgon the Space Monster. Composed the score for such classics as Halloween, 1986's Big Trouble in Little China, which he directed, and 1981's Escape from New York, which he directed. The list, much like that of Stephen King, goes on and on and on and on. We would not have so many great
legends, man.
Yeah. We wouldn't have such great, amazing horror bodies of work if it wasn't for John Carpenter and Stephen King.
Agreed.
I'll go to the grave with that. This one written by, of course, Stephen King. Take your pick. Stephen King is the boss. If you don't know, now you know. Also written by Bill Phillips. Also wrote 1990's El Diablo, 1992's There Goes the Neighborhood, and 4 movies for the TV movie series Jack Reed, including Jack Reed, A Search for Justice, Jack Reed, One of Our Own, Jack Reed, A Killer Among Us, and Jack Reed, Death and Vengeance, starring Brian Dennehy as Jack Reed. There's a big Jack Reed fan.
I thought you were going to say starring Jack Reed as Jack Reed.
Semi-autobiographical.
Oh, yeah. So funny.
Oh, goodness. Starring, this is a bigger cast. I did not mention anyone, or I didn't mention everyone, but bear with us. Starring Keith Gordon as Arnie, also starred in 1979's All That Jazz as Young Joe, Doug in 1978's Jaws 2, and as Jason in 1986's Back to School alongside Rodney Dangerfield. He also directed episodes of such hit TV shows as Nurse Jackie, Better Call Saul, Fargo, Dexter, House, and Homeland. Those are all massive, massive TV shows.
They are.
This one also starring John Stockwell as Dennis, directed the 2002 surfing movie Blue Crush, and starred in Blair's second and third favorite Tom Cruise films, Top Gun, where he played Cougar, and Losing It, where he plays Spider. Blair's favorite Tom Cruise movie is, of course, Cocktail. Also starring Alexandra Paul as Leia. Also starred in 92 episodes of Baywatch, 1993's Detonator, and its 1995 sequel, Detonator 2 Night Watch, and in 2016's Sharknado 4, The Fourth Awakens. Finally, starring Harry Dean Stanton as Junkins, also starred in Alien, Repo Man, 7 Psychopaths, Twister, and The Last Temptation of Christ, just to name a few. Synopsis, courtesy of our dear friends at IM. DB. A nerdish boy buys a strange car with an evil mind of its own, and his nature starts to change to reflect it. What a boring synopsis.
Very boring. It does kind of tell it how it is a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that, like, I commend you for what you just did there, because I know you're sick. I know.
Oh,
I know you're struggling a little bit right now. You did very good with your whole movie introduction there.
I wasn't wheezing too much.
No, you were good. You were good. You were great. I just want to commend you on that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, my brother.
But yeah, very boring. Very boring.
It's just it doesn't reflect the movie itself.
No, not really.
No. This leads us to one of our favorite segments, Kill Count.
Kill Count. The time of the show we count the kills.
Blairski, do we have a kill count for this one?
Total kill count is 7.
Okay.
Total kill count is 7. They did list 3 uncounted deaths, being like the previous car owners and stuff. I'm not counting that shit. 7 deaths in the movie.
Okay, that's a good amount.
Yeah, I think it's pretty average. It makes for a good kill count.
I don't know if it'll win any awards come award time season for kill count. It's certainly no a mosquito from 1994, but
or piranha
from God knows when. Oh God. This leads us to one of our favorite segments of the show, likes and dislikes. The portion of the show where we talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, and everything in between. Blairski, do you want to kick this one off?
I want to start with just things we kind of always talk about. The acting, the score, and the soundtrack.
Yep.
The main fundamentals of a movie minus the plot. Well, the plot was good too. It was all good, man. Everything was good. The acting was great. I loved the score, and not just the score of the movie, like the John Carpenter score of the movie. Yeah. I loved all the 50s pop tracks that were playing, man. I loved all of it.
Not only that, the 50s pop tracks, but then when it moved ahead to the 70s or 80s, I think it was the 80s, they were doing the songs from the 50s, but being covered by bands from the 80s.
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize
really, really cool.
Okay, yeah. That is cool.
And also, any movie that starts off with George Thorogood and the Destroyers is okay with me. Pretty wild.
That's Bad to the Bone, right?
Bad to the Bone, yeah. Which I believe the movie also ends with Bad to the Bone as well.
Did you know that was the first ever movie to ever play Bad to the Bone?
Really?
Yeah, that was the first.
I did not know that. Cool.
First movie ever to play Bad to the Bone, but the most famous movie I think it's in is probably Terminator 2.
Yeah.
When he's first entering, I think it's when he's first entering like the bar, Arnold Schwarzenegger just fucking gets his shotgun and his leather jacket and his bike. I think it's playing at that scene. But yeah, anyway, cool. I guess that's another interesting fact.
Absolutely.
Think about.
On top of that, like you said, the acting in this movie was great. One person who I think of in particular is Keith Gordon as Arnie.
Yeah.
And even though that character is very like over the top, there was one scene in particular where Arnie picks up Dennis on New Year's Eve. The acting is so great. Keith Gordon in that scene alone was the best acting in the movie. He's just creepy as hell.
Yeah, I was about to say that's when he starts kind of losing it really, really good, right?
Yeah, it's just him and Dennis in the car, and he's losing it. And he was so good in that scene.
The movie was long. It did not feel like it was long. I'm going to say that. I was not bored at all.
Yeah. We had mentioned, obviously, John Carpenter directed this and John Carpenter did the soundtrack, but I think you and I can both agree that this is a very John Carpenter feeling movie.
100% it is, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy. I didn't realize it was John Carpenter that directed this movie. I didn't know that. I did not even know that at all.
Neither did I. I'm always pleasantly surprised when I see his name attached to stuff, which I shouldn't be surprised at because he's worked on like a billion things.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always like, oh yes, John Carpenter. It's going to be good.
There's a scene I want to talk about, which I really loved. It was when the car, Christine, fixes herself.
Yeah.
So anytime the car fixes itself, I just love that because I was kind of wondering how they did it. And in my mind, I was like, they must have crushed it somehow and reversed the film.
Filmed it in reverse. That's what I was thinking as well.
And I did look it up, and that's exactly what they did.
Okay.
Which is really cool, right? Because it's not CGI. That's still technically practical effect, as far as I'm
concerned. I loved it, because it didn't feel like I was thinking it's like, maybe is it stop motion? Did they film it in reverse? Like, it doesn't feel overly dated. It maybe feels a little bit dated, but I like that. I really like that about it. And there's a couple times where it rebuilds itself.
There's the very first time it does it, which is a very kind of long scene. And that's the one that stands out to me. But anytime it gets damaged, it fixes it.
Yeah.
Anytime. It's fucking wild, man. Did you like the kills in this movie?
Yeah, they weren't they were they weren't overly graphic.
No, like this movie's not scary. Like it's not a scary movie, but it's a good movie.
Yeah, it's kind of like Cujo, and this is where like this is kind of the genre that I lean into when it comes to horror, is kind of like stuff that's borderline comedy without intentionally being a comedy.
Yeah.
It's just kind of so over the top. And I think we can both agree that the premise of a killer car being possessed by something is pretty outlandish.
It's ridiculous, yes.
Obviously, when it has Stephen King's name attached to it, it's like, oh, this is ridiculous, but it'll all make sense in the next hour and 50 minutes. It'll be so plausible, and I'll be like talking nicer to my car every time I get into it.
Apparently, though, that part of the movie is different from the book. So in the movie, it kind of shows that the car is already demonic from the assembly line, right?
Okay, yeah.
Because at the very beginning of the movie, it slams the hood on that one guy's hand. It kills the other guy who's smoking, a doobie or a cigar or whatever inside of it.
Yeah.
And in the book, it's apparently the previous car owner's ghost that's haunting it.
Which is weird because they kind of lean towards that when Arnie purchases the car and they talk to LeBay. I think LeBay is the old guy's name. And he mentions the story about his brother and his brother's wife and his brother's daughter. But it's kind of weird because it's like, well, like you said, we saw that car being possessed coming off the assembly line. So it was possessed before it got into the hands of LeBay's brother.
Which is weird because if they just took that scene out, it would match with the book.
Yeah.
And it was just the one intro scene because it doesn't go back to that at all. So, I don't know.
As people who often talk about the intros to movies and how much, the first 5 minutes, how much of an impression, the entire movie. What did you think of the intro?
To be honest, the whole time I was just vibing out to the song.
I was the same. I was exactly the same. Yeah. The cool song and the cool cars.
Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah, exactly.
I did appreciate that Christine was the only car on the assembly line that had any kind of pop to it. Yeah, it was red. All the other ones were kind of a white or an off-white. And then you have Christine, which is like a hot red. Yeah.
Well, apparently for the movie, that was a custom paint job. Like the white cars on the assembly line were one of the main colors that car did come out as. Yeah. But they didn't have, like, they didn't actually release a car that color.
Right.
It was just a custom paint job. But yeah, I did like how she was kind of standalone-ish in the assembly line.
She stuck out for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I thought there was a lot of really cool shots in this one. I love the use of, I mentioned this in X as well, but I love the use of the headlights for lighting, especially the reflection of the headlights. It's just the headlights are so blinding that you're constantly wondering. You never know if Arnie is the one behind the wheel of the car, or if Christine is driving herself, or if Arnie is in there. So I love it. I love that the windows are tinted. I love that you're always blinded by the headlights. You never know if somebody's behind the wheel.
If you were to guess, was there somebody behind the wheel most of the time?
See, I think Arnie and Christine were working kind of as like a 1-2 punch.
Kind of like Mike Myers and whatever that guy's face is.
Yeah. Was it Corey? I
Corey.
feel like Corey.
It's Corey. Yeah.
I feel like Christine did all the dirty work.
Yeah.
And Arnie was kind of the mastermind. Or Christine was kind of Arnie's protector.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I really like that, man. I find that kind of cool.
I think so too. Anything you didn't really like about this one?
Hey, let me just read my notes. Nothing off the top of my head, man. I have nothing bad written down. I can't think of anything bad, man. To be honest, thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I didn't know what to expect, which is a good thing. Because if you're going into Christine thinking it's a horror movie, which it is, but if you're expecting to be scared,
Yeah.
You're not going to get scared. There's not a lot of blood and gore. It's
Right.
really, really good storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
It's good characters and like a really messed up situation.
Yeah.
There are kills, but they're not,
And of course, we always constantly have to be reminded of when the movie came out, where most people would be seeing it. I always say that with films like Texas Chainsaw or Halloween,
for
when
sure.
people say,
Or The
that's
Exorcist.
where people are like, well, that's not scary. It's like, well, imagine back in 1978 or 1979 or 1973. Imagine watching it in a drive-through.
Yeah.
Like it's all about where you are when you watch this, the time period, what is happening in the world, things like that. So it isn't the most, it's not overly scary.
No.
But it also, it makes me, my apologies. It makes me interested to see what Sony Pictures and Blumhouse are going to do with the remake.
Yeah, me too, man.
Because this movie, they're going to have to go all out with it if they want. I think people will go and see it because it obviously has Stephen King's name attached to it. But they got to be pushing the envelope with this one.
Especially with movies now like Terrifier 2, for example, that are just so out there. Saw 10's coming out in like a week.
Yeah.
That's also probably going to be such a gore fest. I can only imagine, right?
Yeah.
The next Saw movie after a Terrifier 2, they're going to push it, man. And you don't need to push it as far as those movies.
No.
But just kind of this day and age, that's what people kind of expect a little
totally.
bit.
And it's interesting. Stephen King, obviously, like you said, wasn't happy with the 1983 version. So who knows? Maybe Blumhouse, maybe Sony Pictures, they're going to stay a little bit more truthful to the original text.
Yeah.
Which would be great. I have not read this book.
I haven't either, no.
After watching this movie, it made me want to read this book. It's like I said, it is an outlandish idea that by the end of it seems somewhat plausible.
You said that about Cujo too. You got a lot of reading to do, buddy.
I know. Stephen King is so good at doing that, though. He takes the out of the ordinary and makes it seem plausible.
Yeah. Well said.
That's pretty much what I have for likes and dislikes on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I got a few more things we could talk about, but I'm not going to. I enjoyed the movie. I liked most things in it, and we've covered all the highlights anyway.
Wicked. Alrighty, that leads us to one of our favorite segments, which of course is lessons we learned from watching 1983's Christine.
Lessons we learned from watching. Insert title of movie here.
The segment of the show where we talk about the valuable life lessons we learned from watching said movie. Blairski, did you learn anything from watching Christine?
I got a couple things here. First, pay attention to your surroundings when playing a receiving position in football, or you may end up in the hospital with a career-ending injury.
100%. Absolutely.
I got flattened, man.
Laid out. Yeah.
Finally, if you're ever chased down by a motor vehicle, do not run from it in a straight line in the middle of the road. It will catch up to you and you will not get away. You got to zigzag.
Isn't that the same for like, isn't that the same for is it an alligator or a crocodile? You're supposed to run in a zigzag?
No, you're just supposed to stay out of the water.
Oh, right. That's what it was. Just don't go near them.
Yeah, that's probably the best thing to do.
Excellent. Good lessons you learned. I've got a couple here. My apologies. Obscenity is not allowed in the game of Scrabble. Okay. And playing a word such as fellatio will surely end in disqualification. And then finally, I have you can't polish a turd. Life lessons from Darnell, the man who runs the garage.
That was almost one of my lines of the night. It wasn't, but that was almost one of them.
This leads to one of our favorite segments, of course, Line of the Night.
Line of the night. Line of the night. Line of the night. Line of the night. Line of the night. Line of the night. Line of the night. Line of the night. Line of the night.
The segment of the show where we discuss our favorite lines from the movie. They might give us chills. They might give us the giggles. All we know is that they are our favorites. Blairski, have any favorite lines from this one?
I got a few, man. The son of a bitch was so mean, you could have poured boiling water down his throat and he would have pissed ice cubes.
Ice cold.
This is said by Robert Prosky, the shop owner. That guy, man, he had a mouth on him. Holy.
Man, oh man.
Next line of the night. I know a creep when I see one, and I'm looking at one right now, which was also said by Robert Prosky, and it was directed at Arnie. When he first showed up to the shop. That's all I have written down. There are a lot of good lines in this movie, but most of them are like way too vulgar to repeat.
Yeah, and a lot of them are almost just said in passing. Like you kind of miss it. But
Yeah.
I've got a couple here, mostly from Arnie, but he said, you want to watch what you call my car. She's real sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
That's after Dennis calls Christine a rust bucket. Next, again, Arnie, there is nothing finer than being behind the wheel of your own car. I love that.
True that.
And then finishing it off, Leah, when she said, God, I hate rock and roll.
I almost put that too.
That I believe that was the very last line of the night.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. Those are good ones. This, of course, leads us to our final segment of the show, truly our favorite segment, which of course is Celebrity Lookalike Time.
Celebrity Lookalike Time.
The time of the show where we take a look at the cast and discuss their celebrity doppelgangers. Spoiler alert, it usually comes down to the character's hairstyle. Blairski, any celebrity lookalikes on this one?
Okay, well, first and foremost, Arnie reminded me of anyone that would be named Arnie.
Yeah. 100%. Absolutely.
He totally looked like an Arnie.
He looks like an Arnold.
But he also reminded me of Buddy Holly.
Yep.
Especially in the scenes when he's wearing his glasses.
Absolutely.
And he reminded me a little bit of Dave Franco, who is James Franco's little brother later on in the film when he took his glasses off and had a different style.
Yeah.
So Dave Franco in that. My next celeb lookalike is Arnie's mom, Regina Cunningham, reminded me of Ellen Bernstein in The Exorcist.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely the hairstyle.
Oh, 100% the hairstyle. A little bit in the face too, to be honest. It's quite the resemblance. And then finally, I just thought this was funny. Me and you talked about this at work, and we both had George LeBay, who's the guy who sold Arnie the car. And we both had him written down as celebrity lookalike time because we had talked about this as looking like Kevin McAllister's neighbor, Marley, in Home Alone.
Yeah, old man Marley.
And sure enough, it was him. It was the same actor.
He is old man Marley.
Yeah, so we can't use that. But I thought it was funny that we both had that written down originally.
He has quite a big resume.
Yeah, he does.
But yeah, Home Alone and Christine.
Yeah.
Man, oh man. I've got a couple here to go off of that. With the white beard, George LeBay reminded me of the character Stinky Pete, a.k.a. the prospector from Toy Story 2. I also have here the character Moochie, who's one of the bullies, reminded me of the character Flounder in Animal House.
Okay, yeah.
And then finally, the character Arnie reminded me of an older Michael Squints Polydorus in the 1993 coming-of-age sports classic, The Sandlot.
Okay.
Michael Squints Polydorus, a.k.a. Squints.
Yeah. Once you said Sandlot, I knew.
It's because of the glasses. Yeah, absolutely. This one, a lot of fun. So far, we've had a pretty darn good month.
Yeah,
pretty darn good Stephen King month.
You'd think so, and it's only going to get better with their next movie.
Agreed. But this leads us to our final rating of 1983's Christine. Blairski, out of 5 of the most disastrous glow-ups from nerd to cool kid on campus this world has ever seen, what do you give Christine?
Oh, that was great, by the way. That was a great scene. I'm giving Christine 4 of the most disastrous glow-ups from nerd to cool kid on campus the world has ever seen out of 5.
Excellent. I'm going to rate this one a little bit lower, 3.5 of the most disastrous glow-ups from nerd to cool kid on campus this world has ever seen out of 5. I'm out of breath. This was a fun movie. I've said it a couple times when we were chatting the other day. It felt a lot like Cujo.
It did.
And in that aspect, I guess it felt a lot like the made-for-TV It, where it's just, it felt like it could have been a made-for-TV movie, but a really good made-for-TV movie.
I enjoyed it better than the made-for-TV It. It was why I gave it a higher score than Cujo. So clearly I enjoyed it more than Cujo. It was very on par with Cujo. It was a lot of similarities. I mean, same time frame.
Yeah, absolutely.
Book and movie all around the same time, right? I enjoyed it. It was both of our first watch.
Yeah, I'm glad we watched this one. Stephen King was definitely in the pocket
when he
wrote Christine. That's for sure.
He was.
Like Blairski said, we've got one more movie to watch in September. And then, man, oh man, I'm so excited. October
it's here, man. The best time of the year.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. And boy, do we have a lot planned for the month. We almost have too much on our plate, but that's a good thing.
Yeah, it is a good thing. And I think we'll get it done, man. I think we'll get it done.
We're capable. We're capable.
There's some good things in the work. We're not going to, I won't say right now what our month for October will be, but I will say with the podcast network we're on with Planet X network, we are planning on doing something special with them as well. I'm also not going to say what that is either, because that's still in the works. So we'll see, but October should be a good month for us. And just October is a good month in general, man. I love Halloween.
Honestly, it could be Halloween. It could be October. Year round for me. I'm very much
365.
Jack Skellington before he gets all nostalgic about Christmas.
100%. Oh, I also do want to mention we have a website now. The website is up and running, so you can get all of our latest episodes on there. We also have merch, and you can get a hold of us. Everything's on there, and it's a simple website: www.reviews.scare.com.
I was going to say on that website, make sure you take a look at the merch.
Yeah, definitely. It's I'm actually wearing a shirt right now.
Yeah, look at that.
I don't know if you can see it. I can't see myself on the camera, but
pretty excellent. Excellent.
Looks pretty sick.
Blair worked long and hard on that website, and it shows. The website looks great. Take a look.
Thank you very much, man.
Take a look at the website.
Just check it out.
But for Reviews That Scare with Jess and Blair, it is sure good to be back. I'm Jess.
And I'm Blair. Remember to stay scary.
Yeah, indeed. Every sandwich. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Reviews That Scare. Make sure you check out our Linktree at linktree/reviewsthatscare. That's linktr.ee/reviewsthatscare, which has links to our Instagram, YouTube, Patreon, Twitch, and many other things. If you'd like to email us, you can reach us at reviewsthatscare@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and remember to stay scary and eat every sandwich. A proud member of the Planet X Network.